So the question I'd like to ask is just what kind of timing can we expect for accountability on these points that are coming from the advocacy networks for both Black and Latinx faculty from across campus? Thank you.
Yeah, Priscilla, let me take a crack at that for you, and then maybe Jennifer might want to jump in. We're working on almost all of these things actively, some easier, some of these things will be addressed prior to fall. Some of the actions and steps will be put into place prior to fall. So I think after this webinar is over, what we'll be doing is gathering these up, and at the end, I'll summarize some of the steps that we've taken now, and hopefully you can see that there's been some progress made, particularly in some of the resource areas. Thank you, Priscilla.
I'll just say stay tuned from Academic Affairs. We're going to be having a number of meetings in the coming weeks to better outline timeline. A number of initiatives are already underway and others need more time and deliberation. For example, the Black Studies program that has been proposed, we have an African American Studies minor, and I've had preliminary conversations with Tamara Brown, our Dean, Executive Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, about ways that we can consider best advancing that conversation interest around having a Black Studies program.
Okay, we have, Dr. With, did you want to?
Yes, please. Like Jennifer, I want to make sure that folks understand that the Division of Student Affairs too is looking into all that we can do. I agree that we have behaviors that need to change on campus, and we have lots of work to do, but it really is important to us that we are moving forward and taking actions. We will be able to update some of the activities that we have done and talk a little bit more about what we hope to do in the future. Thank you.
And so we've got 3 more hands raised, but in the interest of time, I'm going to just call on one of them. Zach Shirley, you can proceed.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Shani, for recognizing me. My name is Zach Shirley. I work in the Center for Fraternity and Sorority Life on campus. I'm also a proud UNT alumni, having earned my doctorate degree from University of North Texas in 2014 in the higher education program. Number one, I want to thank my Black Professional Network president, Landon Ellison, for sharing his story. I serve as his vice president, and I'm excited about the work that we get to do alongside colleagues at University of North Texas in supporting our staff of color, our Black staff at the University of North Texas. I also want to say, as a proud member of the Division of Student Affairs, we've had a number of conversations on the situation that have surrounded our staff and students from the Black community at UNT. And so what I'm going to say a little bit really quick is a conversation on actually racial battle fatigue. And we brought this up last week in our Division of Student Affairs meeting, but I think it's very crucial to also talk about racial battle fatigue from the standpoint of our faculty and students. And for those who don't know what racial battle fatigue is, it was a coined term in 2008 by critical race theorist William Smith, and originally used in reference to the experiences of African-American men in America, but has now expanded itself to the negative and racially charged experiences of all people of color. And so I would encourage us as a university, a community of educated individuals who work to mold the minds of our students, to familiarize ourselves with racial battle fatigue and the stressors that causes, not only on students, but also our faculty and staff, our faculty especially who are in the classroom and having to navigate many of these concerns that they have had that we've heard on this call. And so that is a concept that I feel like would help educate our entire university community on what it means to be a Black person in predominantly white spaces, and how allies and advocates can step up and come to a place of support for those individuals. And not just passive support, but actionable support as well. I am thankful to be able to work in our division to where these conversations are occurring, because we know our students are coming back. Our students are, as many have said before us, coming to us as staff and faculty, and we are being taxed with those questions, and we will never shy away from them because we want to support our students. But I would encourage everyone to educate themselves on the concept of not only critical race theory as a whole, but racial battle fatigue as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we will turn it back over to our moderator, Neil Foote.
Thank you, Shani. Thank you for all those wonderful questions. And we will definitely be getting to many of those, as many as we can, to the questions you posed in the Q&A. I do want to take a few minutes here and ask Police Chief Ed Reynolds to join the conversation. Chief, we're glad you're here today. I know there's been lots of conversations about the role of the UNT Police Department, and we'd love to get some insights from your point of view. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Neil. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ed Reynolds. I'm the Chief of Police. I've been with the university for a little over 27 years. I just want to give a couple of comments about our department. Most of our officers that work for UNT are UNT graduates. Many of them are also taking classes at UNT. The reason I share that is because I think it's important that we have a police community that reflects our community. So when we're looking to hire an officer, that's the first place we go. We try to find someone that's invested in UNT, like I am, to making this a great place to learn and a safe place for us all to be. I know there's several questions that have come up, and I want to start off by just quickly talking about the issue in Minneapolis and how this all unfolded, because I was asked to speak one time at a forum, and a video was pulled up of a clear case of police brutality. And the participants asked me what I thought about it. And the one thing that I can say on that is, when I watched those videos, when I watched that in Minneapolis, what I saw was an officer that probably wasn't the first time that he'd been in trouble. My guess is when you see that, there's a pattern of behavior that's going on and it's been unchecked. It's not been dealt with appropriately. So what I'm going to say to you may offend other chiefs across the country, but I'm just going to say that it's a failure of leadership in police. We have to do better. We have to take our duties as police chiefs to make sure that we're hiring officers that are reflective of our community, and that ones that hold those values and then go out in the field and when we meet with students, faculty, staff, that we're showing that. We have not always done a good job at UNT, but what I can tell you is we are committed to doing better. And some of the stories and some of the comments I've read are certainly concerning to me. I know you've heard us say as a police department many times, if you see something, say something. And what I'm going to ask all of our community to do, if you see an officer that's acting inappropriately, please let me know. We need to look at that. And if we don't know, it's tough. Some of the questions that came up were about body cameras. So I just want to address that real quickly. All of our officers do carry body cameras. Are required monthly to go in there and watch periodic video to make sure that they are holding the standards that we expect. It's kind of a quality assurance process for that. I think one of the questions was also to deal with complaints on police officers. And I know that there's a lot of concern that the police try to police themselves. And I would agree with you or anyone that's concerned that is not a good idea. Anytime we get a complaint at the UNT Police Department that involves a race-based allegation against an officer, we work with the Office of Equity and Diversity to give them all of that information so that they can review that. And so, you know, that office doesn't report under my vice president, it reports directly to the president. That's one of the ways that we try to have a third party look at it, so it's not just us looking at that piece of it. Our officers training piece of this, I know that's come up with some questions. Roughly our officers achieve 2 times the training that the state requires, but it's also in bias awareness training. We feel that that's important as part of our accreditation through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement. That's required to do that training at least every 2 years. We do meet that standard, and many times we do that every year. Many of our officers are trained in specifically mental health, because we know that that's a concern. It's also the time that we want to make sure that our officers, if they're responding to someone that's in a crisis, that they can use those skills so that we can get that person maybe the help that they need. We don't have all of our officers trained as certified mental health peace officers, but we've got a large majority of them, and that's kind of the direction that we're going. The de-escalation piece for law enforcement is always something that we have to do better at. We do scenario-based training to where we put officers in scenarios with live participants, to where we try to help them improve their communication skills so that force is only applied as an absolute necessity. One of the questions came up about kind of the demographics of our department, so I kind of wanted to share that. Roughly 10% of our police officers are Black, roughly 12% are Hispanic. That's not good enough. I know that. It's a tough job to recruit people to recruit for this job. And that is something that I plan on working with some of our community members on ideas and thoughts that we can boost our recruitment for minority officers. I hope this answers your question. I know there was a number of things that came up with the 8 can't wait. So I'll just really quickly touch on that. I'm probably exceeding my time here. Many of those things that are in that 8 can't wait, we're already doing. However, there are some things in there that we are definitely looking at that we think we could put in policy that would improve our department and make us better at what we do. Neil, is there any other questions that I missed?
Yeah, one of the things that's come up fairly regularly, and you've kind of maybe alluded to it a bit, is that we might have some form of an advisory group that helps connect the community, our students and faculty of color and Black students particularly, with our police. Have you had any more thoughts on that?
I know of departments that have used an advisory board to help craft police policies and procedures. And I know that I think if it's done the correct way, it can be a useful tool. And I'm certainly not opposed to that. And I think that there could be some advantages to going that route.
I think that's something that would begin to add up. That there was a connection, that there was sincere communication. I've seen a lot of people responding that they fear the police, whether it's the Denton police or our campus police. And I would love to do what I can to mitigate that. And I know you would too, Ed. I've watched you in action, and I believe that you feel that the right kind of advice, the right kind of training could really help us feel safe, as opposed to having certain members of our community feel fearful. And I appreciate your openness to that.
Thank you, Chief. I'm sure there'll be more conversations and more dialogue in the weeks ahead, hopefully with you and your team as we move forward on these many issues.